So today I will talk about the energy communities examples we have in Italy and the ones that we supported in the last couple of years. Bring in one specific case that was the case study for the Prospect Plus second learning cycle where we were involved. EPC are somehow linked, but as a let's say implementation tool for future installation, especially for renewable energy systems. We are already working with the municipalities to set up potential EPC contracts and also to work with them with bundling investments, also with the energy efficiency related activities. So we're trying to have a combination with them, but today I will talk more about how we reached the possibility to have renewable energy communities in Italy, how they works, and the example of San Lazzaro di Savena, which is a medium-sized town beside Bologna, so in Bologna region, Emilia-Romagna region. And we had the chance also to visit the site during the Prospect Plus cycle. So let's see if I can start. Very good. Okay, so the EU legislation behind renewable energy communities started in 2018 with the Renewable Energy Directive, RED II, and the Electricity Market Directive that set up the possibility for having renewable energy communities across Europe. And the concept, most of you might already know it because it's a concept that was invented during the 70s and already probably earlier in some cases, and it was developed in some areas of Europe and not across the continent. So we had the possibility now to start with this concept in other areas. We had a first implementation and trial phase between 2019 and 2020 with the first transposition of the European law. And we set up in Italy some very small energy communities, neighborhood level, with very small renewable energy systems. That didn't expand very much because the scope was too narrow and the financial were not very interesting. Then the legislator decided to go for a scaling up process. So we had the possibility to expand the REC perimeter action. So we went from the neighborhood to nowadays the national level. And I will explain later what it means. And also the installed capacity for each power plant was increased from 200 kilowatts to 1 megawatt. So now we are talking about interesting numbers financially as well. So the concept is now spreading. Unfortunately, from 2021, we had to wait until this year to have the final legislative decree and the technical regulation by the national authorities. So as you see, more than 6 years passed from the EU legislation, but eventually we are up and running. And in these very days, we are activating the first renewable energy communities that we supported in the last couple of years, thanks to a regional action grant. What's an energy community in Italy? Very basic definition. It's a group of energy prosumers, so consumers and producers that collectively share energy locally, produce and consume. In Italy, it's not meant as a peer-to-peer energy transaction, but it's more a virtual calculation that is made by the national authority thanks to the already implemented energy meters that every household, every point, every building connected to the grid have already in place. So the definition is the minimum in each given time, which is the hour, between the renewable energy produced and the energy withdrawn from the grid by all the members of the community. So it's, as I said, it's a virtual concept and not a direct sharing of energy. And it works like this. So there will be a group of members that will produce energy thanks to their, for example, PV systems, and another group of members of the community that withdraw the energy. And the shared energy level is the minimum of the two. Then this amount of kilowatt hour will be multiplied by a coefficient that defines the incentive. So at the moment, The initial scheme in Italy is based on an incentive scheme that reward the fact that under a certain area, within an area of the territory, someone is producing renewable energy, some others are using renewable energy, and they are not overloading the national grid. So this is the basic concept. Then energy communities will be able to do other services in future, but at the moment, this is the basic concept that we have in place. To explain visually, the minimum for an energy community in Italy, you need two members, one consumer and one producer or prosumer that are connected to the grid. And when we have the user A that withdraws energy for example, 10 kilowatt hour from the grid, and the second member, the prosumer, feed 3 kilowatt hour to the grid, we have the shared energy level, which is 3 kilowatt hour. Then if we increase the number of members and we include more prosumers, for example, we still have the member A that withdraw energy for 10 kilowatt hour, and the whole other prosumers inject or feed to the grid 20 kilowatt hours. In that case, the shared energy level is 10 kilowatt hour, the minimum of the two. And you can easily understand that expanding this concept, we can have a greater amount of energy that is shared and then incentivize itself. Some energy community basics. So the main goal is a direct transposition from the European law, is to provide environmental, economic, or social community benefits for the shareholders and the members and for the local areas, rather than focusing on financial profits. You need to set up a dedicated legal entity. At the moment, we know that with the new electricity market regulation that is being transposed in Italy, there will be the possibility to have informal grouping of members that share benefits. But at the moment, you need to set up an association, cooperative, or foundation, for example, and they need to be based on the EU allowed models. So this is European criteria. Most of the users and prosumers of the grid are allowed. So we could have citizens, NGOs, small medium enterprises, small ESCOs, cooperatives themselves, public entities that could join the scheme. The only one that are not allowed are energy-related companies, so utilities and small medium enterprises that want to do REC management as their main activity. And also we have some collateral members that cannot be full members, such as public enterprises or public related companies. For example, at the moment we cannot have the local utility directly owned by the municipalities, or we cannot have, for example, the public housing companies that has not been yet cleared if they can be part of this concept. But in general, most of the users can be part of the community. Another important element is that any stakeholder or a member can join and withdraw from the renewable energy community freely anytime, in the same way that you can change your energy provider or anything else. So one technical concept that is quite relevant in Italy is the perimeter of action for an energy community. Here I reported an image where you can see from the national website where you can understand if you are eligible as a member of a specific community. You see some black perimeters, which are the so-called MVHV conventional perimeters. So the medium high voltage transformer action area, where the energy is actually distributed in the local area. Each member needs to be into a specific black perimeters to share the energy with other members of the community. So technically, you see here we have 3 or 4, actually 5 territorial areas that are identified with specific codes. So for example, here we have the case of San Lazzaro di Savena, where you see the black perimeters with 680, 696, 695. And you also see a reddish perimeter, which is the municipality perimeter that most of the time don't collide with the black perimeters. And to be part of a community, you could be, as a legal entity, big as the whole image, so having more MVHV transformer perimeters, but to share the energy, you need to be inside each perimeter. So for example, we saw before the two households, if they were under the same perimeter, they were actually sharing energy and creating that incentive that I mentioned before. If those two houses were, for example, one in the perimeter 615 and in the other in 680, they would not be able to share the energy and so to have the incentive. But at the same time, when we have different groupings of households and small medium enterprises that are in different groups, in different perimeters, they will create different amounts of incentives, but then all the incentives together will be collected in the same treasury of the association or the foundation. And then the renewable energy community will decide how to use those money. I hope it's clear, but in case we can come back later. How the incentive works. So we have two elements that are in place. The first one on the left is specifically dedicated to the producers. So when there is the household that we saw before that install the PV system, they will have, of course, the direct benefit of the self-consumption. But then when they feed to the grid the energy, they will receive a reward, an incentive that is linked to the current energy price. So the zonal so-called energy price. At the moment in Italy, we have an average of 100 euros per megawatt hour for the energy price when fed to the grid. And then if you are part of a community, when there is someone that withdraw the energy and that energy is also available, the community get an incentive that varies, as you see in the graph. So it depends both on the energy price and also from the size of each PV system, for example, that are installed. So the smaller, the better, to have more incentive in this case. And the lower the energy price, the higher the incentive. So this was made to counterbalance the effects. For example, when we had the Ukrainian war that started, the energy spiked to 500 euros per megawatt hour. So the incentive would have been much lower compared to the current energy prices. We also have some extra contribution, 10 euro per megawatt hour when we are in the north of Italy because of lower solar levels, for example, and also the area contribution itself is to you thanks to not using the grid too much. And the whole package goes from 60 to up to 140 euros per megawatt hour of the incentive. If we go to the case of San Lazzaro, here you see a couple of pictures that we met in July this year. The picture on the left actually shows the first PV system that will be active for the renewable energy community. We installed it on an existing library that they have in the municipality. Has a green roof as well, so it was a quite challenging installation, but we expanded the existing PV system from 6 kilowatts to 64 kilowatts. So it was a very interesting upgrade. Here on the left, we have the members of the Prospect Plus initiative in Italy. On the right, we are inside the building and we were running the workshop with some of the founding members of the community itself. So they decided to go for an association-based renewable energy community with 8 founding members, with a relevant role of the municipality, which is putting in place several PV systems over their buildings, and also some local associations, social associations, and institutional partners that founded this community. Now we are in a phase where probably from early next year, we will do events to expand the community with citizens, small, medium enterprises, and so on. Here you see the distribution of the PV system that we studied during the support period, and we have both prosumers, consumers, and producers only, so the one that only inject the energy to the grid. And this was the work that we did over time. So we studied and modeled different PV systems over the buildings of the municipality. We analyzed the consumptions and considered the energy bills to understand which was the level of shared energy. In that terms, the level of shared energy for the initial case was around 606,000 kilowatt hour per year, with a self-consumption rate of 39%. So this was made possible to share 371,000 kilowatt hour per year. And that was split between the two initial perimeters that we consider. So we have a main one with a very good level of shared energy, almost 69%. And another one was quite far away from the city center, so with a very small, not even 1% of shared energy. So we have potential to have more members there compared to the central area. And here you can see a graph, for example, in January, of course, the PV system produced 10 times lesser or 8 times less compared to the summer. So there is the level of energy share that is not that big. When we are in the summer, we have a very good level of energy sharing and also some extra energy that is anyway sent to the grid. Thanks to their financial resources, the municipality was able already to invest in other projects. So we have 570 kilowatts studied, but then they were already working on other 647 kilowatt on photovoltaic systems. So this was considered for the study, and that was giving a more interesting contributions. And also they are working with more consumers, institutional consumers, that will help increasing the level of shared energy. Here I will show you a few examples on how they work, starting from the San Lazzaro di Savena example, and also a couple of others examples to see the energy and money flow within the concept. So starting from municipal buildings placed on the rooftop, we estimated an initial investment of 1.1 million euros spread among 11 PV systems for a total of 576 kilowatts installed. This amount of money also depends, which is quite higher compared to the normal ratio, because we had to include, the municipality wanted to include PV canopies as well, which in Italy are very expensive compared to the normal PV system on the roofs. So we are planning to install with them 575 kilowatts for a total of 700 megawatt hour per year, which will help the municipality with an interesting rate of self-consumption. So they will save directly 67,000 euros per year, and then they will inject and feed to the grid for 45,000 euros per year. And that will be even without being part of the community. So this is the anti-community scheme. When they will participate to the community, so the community will be fully active, they will contribute together with their other capacity they are going to install for 56% of energy shared. So a total amount of 378,000 kilowatt hour per year, which translate in 52,000 euros of incentive. So this is an extra lump sum that comes every year for the community. So we worked a little bit already on how to redistribute this amount of money, and they initially decided to split like this. So they would like to keep a 10% for the initial and minimal REC management quota, so a little bit more than 5,000 euros to pay literally someone that connect to the national authority website and manage the communications with them. No extra fancy renewable energy management systems for now, but just to start. And then they decided to split the 40% to the consumers only and social environmental goals that they will define specifically over the year. And this is interesting because, for example, the consumers are not required to invest anything, not even the association yearly quota in this case, and they will just benefit for being part of the scheme without changing even their consumption levels for to start. And then the prosumers, so in this case the municipality only, will get the 50% of the benefits, so 26,000 euros. And this is an interesting extra element that comes from the scheme that will help to repay the investment, which is still high because we have a very relevant investment at the very beginning, but this will take down a few years of the payback. And if we will manage to get, for example, an EPC contract with a utility that will exploit the canopies for themselves, and they could keep part of the benefits without charging too much the municipality, we will significantly lower down the payback time. So this is like a medium-sized, around a little bit more than 1 megawatt in the total size for the community. But when we go for other examples, I will share also the smaller example and a very big example. But before that, I would like to link this initiative with the SICAP plans. So in Italy, a lot of municipalities and San Lazzaro have their sustainable energy and climate action plan in place, and renewable energy communities are one of the tools that they are using to implement their actions. So we took the data that was developed a few years ago, so it's still valid, but they take data from 2017. The total energy consumed in the municipality, so private and public consumptions, is around 107 gigawatt hour per year. When we break down and we take into consideration only municipal and residential buildings, so the easiest one to involve in an energy community, we consider around 38 gigawatt hour per year. And if we consider a third of it that can be shared, so can be consumed when renewable energy is available in the grid from the other members, considering only PV systems, that translates in a need for the community of around 10.4 megawatt of PV system in place. So it is a big number, but it's not unreachable. And so we already have planned 1 megawatt, 10 times more. It's an effort, but it's not 100 or 200 times more than we expect. So it is a reachable goal, and we are working with the municipality to scale up and work on schemes that can involve this great amount of renewable energy systems. Going into a smaller example, so we are working a lot with small municipalities that, for example, have less than 5,000 people under their area. And again, the scheme will be very similar, but we consider an example of a small town that is able to install 126 kilowatts spread into 5 small PV systems. And in this case, we have a national scheme that helps small municipalities to invest, and they give a lump sum of related to the 40% as a co-finance scheme. It's not a loan, it's just a lump sum that is given thanks to the Recovery and Resilience Plan, PNRR in Italy. So again, here we have a little less self-consumption, so the municipality will save almost 5,000 euros. Most of the energy is fed to the grid for a benefit of almost 13,000 euros. When participating to a community that shares a good level of energy, so the 60%, we have around 9,500 euros per year of incentive that is then somehow redistributed to the members, and a little bit kept for the social environmental goals. So here you see the amounts that are much lower, but again, this helps anyway the municipality to lower their initial costs, and for the first 10, 11 years, they might be able to keep part of this incentive and then give it back, most of it, to the community. So it's a long-term, let's say, social contract that is being established. So everyone agrees that the producer is the one that need to be somehow rewarded the most at the very beginning, also to attract investors and attract producers. But then when the payback time is there and a little bit of extra has been given to the producer, most of the benefits could be kept into the community and increase a lot the quota for social environmental goals, for example. I forgot to mention the scheme in Italy has been activated in April and will be in place for new activation until the end of 2027. But then every PV system or renewable energy system that has been activated will be incentivized for 20 years. So it's a relevant scheme. A lot of similar schemes in Italy had the similar duration, but that's relevant information. So here you see also the importance of having a co-financing scheme, because in most cases, especially when municipalities have to invest and their initial costs are usually higher compared to the normal market prices because they have extra administrative costs or they need to refer to nationally set prices, having a 40% co-financing support make the case, and not having it sometimes doesn't make the case for investment. So it's a relevant scheme, unfortunately, but we hope will be delayed. The end of this support scheme is set to be in March next year, but we are still setting communities up. So we hope that the national authorities will delay a little bit this deadline. Going with the final example here, we're talking about a bigger municipality where the ESCO is involved. So we are back linking with the EPC scheme. We did a study for a big city in Italy that we studied a total amount of 4.1 megawatts of PV system that could be installed throughout the municipal buildings for a total investment of 6.5 million euros. And you see a different color because we expect that this amount of money are interesting for ESCOs. And also here you see the difference between the revenue stream. So we have a self-consumption rate of 33%. The energy fed to the grid is the 67%. And we have here the direct benefits that mostly go to the ESCO that did the investment. So no money invested from the municipality, but from the private investor. They get both the whole energy revenues for the feed into the grid. So almost 5,000 euros per year. And as you saw before from the EPC schemes, most of the benefit goes to the ESCO for the energy savings. So the 90% of it goes to the ESCO for a total amount of 320 euros per year. Again, these schemes allows the municipality to be part of a community thanks to the private investors' PV systems. And here you see a significantly higher amount of incentives. So here we're talking about almost 250,000 euros of incentive per year. Again, considering a good level of shared energy. So here you need to have a lot of families, quite a good amount of small, medium enterprises that join the scheme. But we assumed with the initial studies that will be a feasible reach. And the redistribution scheme here was, again, 15% for the quota and social environmental goals. Here, take into consideration, we already took out 10,000 euros to run the scheme on a yearly basis, and the rest is distributed. So the consumers will get 20% of the incentive without doing much, not investing and not changing too much their energy consumption attitudes or habits. And then most of the incentive for a certain amount of years will go to the prosumer. So the 80% here will go there. And you see that this allows for a acceptably long payback time, so around 10 years, which is so somehow the threshold for ESCOs to be part of these schemes. And we have still a direct benefit for the municipality on the direct investments and the direct self-consumption of 10% that they wouldn't have without this scheme. As I mentioned before, the link of these initiatives with other broader initiatives like for example, energy retrofit of these 48 buildings makes even more the case for a PV installation. And when we see, for example, we studied a bundle investment around 30 million euros of energy retrofit, including PV. We are pushing the market to offer some benefits for winning the contract, and a lot of municipalities are now looking at giving the preferable choice of benefits to having free PV systems from the ESCO that provided the offer in order to win the contract, rather than other measures like, I don't know, maintenance costs reduced or other elements of the usual contract. So there is a push for having somehow free PV systems, and this will help again the overall scheme. So we are starting to see that here the scheme, of course, is based on the bigger the better, but at the same time there is the need to keep a balance on the territorial level, because people feel part of a community when they are somehow in a certain area. They don't like a lot at the moment. We're seeing regional scale communities or national level communities because they perceive it closer to a national utility rather than an energy community. So we're seeing that the city level or the territorial areas of few municipalities that are, for example, unions of municipalities, it's quite acceptable and they are very interested to join. That's on the field feedback from the first year of events on the ground. I would like to share also the results of our support scheme that we set up in the last couple of years.
I hate to interrupt, but we are running behind time. So maybe if you could quickly finalize, and I feel that we have to organize a second meeting to follow up on all of this.
No, I will continue just quickly. We helped to set up 26 applications first, and then 15 energy communities in our area. Most of them went through associations scheme, not many cooperatives, which are run by privates. And our, let's say, impacts were quite interesting. We somehow are going to help to create 410,000 euros per year of incentives thanks to this scheme that will help communities to set up their projects. And just a quick run on the takeaways. So we saw that the first element is the buy-in on these schemes, and I already mentioned the level of the community that is suitable for having members, so not too big, but not even too small. We are working a lot on the governance level, so there are communities that would prefer a more top-down approach and just joining the scheme with some benefits, and some others that want to build up from scratch the governance and run it in a closer to cooperative model. The business plans, we will probably join the new energy community facility scheme to help building up the business plans of these communities, and we have still uncertainties of the REC management costs in the long run, and if there will be a burden for the expansion. Again, direct investment versus third-party investment are relevant elements, and not many municipalities have the possibility to directly invest like San Lazzaro di Savena. And in Italy, we have two elements of critical elements are the installation and authorization periods. So the grid is quite congested at the moment, and the national authorities don't allow to install many PV systems in some areas. And also, we are still facing a lot of administrative challenges for public entities linked to the national laws, and we are working a lot to with the national authorities to solve these issues. Thank you very much, and these are my contacts if you need any more information.